It is nice to be back in Iowa. Thank you. Before I talk about JD and the importance of this election, I want to say a few words of gratitude to the people of Iowa. As you all know, in 2016, we were involved in the Democratic presidential primary. And when we came to Iowa, I think we were like at 3% or 5% in the polls. But then we had the opportunity to go all over this beautiful state, a state that reminds me very much of Vermont. And we did probably 100 town meetings. Some are very large, some are pretty small. And at the end of the day, coming from almost nowhere, we ended up tying Secretary Clinton. And why that caucus night was so important is that it told America that the ideas that we were fighting for were not radical or extremist ideas. And because of what you guys in Iowa helped us do, and then a week later we went to New Hampshire where we won by 20 points. But because of what you helped us do, the ideas that we advocated are now not considered fringe ideas or radical ideas. They are ideas supported in many cases by the vast majority of the American people. Thank you, Iowa. Delighted, absolutely delighted to be here tonight for JD Scholten, because if there was ever a need to change the congressional leadership of the 4th District, this is that time. Let me tell you how I think JD is going to win. 4 years ago, in 2014, some of you may recall that as a nation, we had the lowest voter turnout in a midterm election since World War II. All of 36% of the American people voted, and Iowa, by the way, turnout was higher than that. My Republican colleagues in the Senate, what they want to see are billionaires like the Koch brothers buying elections and working people and young people not coming out to vote. That is how they win elections. And that is why they work overtime trying to suppress the vote. And to my mind, somebody who's run in many, many elections, and I tell you this from the bottom of my heart, I have won elections and I have lost elections. But it has never occurred to me to discourage and make it harder for people to vote. That what JD's election is all about is voter turnout. And I believe that if working people and young people and people of good conscience go out to the polls in large numbers, JD is going to be the next congressman of the And my request of all of you here is that we have a wonderful turnout. Thanks so much. much for all of you for coming. But if each and every one of you can bring out 2 or 3 friends or family members or co-workers, the number of votes that JD gets is doubled or tripled. So in the next 2 weeks, let us do everything that we can to beg and now, I don't want to be overly dramatic because I don't know what's going to happen on election night. Nobody does. But it is altogether possible that at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning on the night of November 6th, we're going to be looking at a House of Representatives where one party or the other party will have control by 1 or 2 votes. That is a possibility. And one of those votes could be the 4th District of Iowa. And I would just remind people, and I know I don't have to do it here in Iowa, that democracy is not a spectator sport. Without becoming overly patriotic, I want everybody here to remember that millions of Americans have fought and many have died to defend our way of life, and our way of life is democracy, one person, one vote. And if we don't come out and vote, and if our attitude is it doesn't matter, or they're all crooks, or I don't care, we are insulting those people who fought to defend American democracy, and we cannot and must not do that. So on November 6th, let us come out. Let us come out and let us do everything that we can to bring our friends and neighbors out. And when people tell you, as I am sure that they will, that they're not interested in voting, they've got other things to do, tell them that you are not going to be listening to them moaning and groaning anymore. It's easy to moan and groan. We need people to stand up, to fight back, to change the direction of this country. And by the way, we need people in Congress who are going to stand up to the pathological liar who is the President of the United States. And I have the feeling that he won this great state because he touched a nerve with many people who felt that the establishment was turning their backs on them. People who were working longer hours for lower wages. People who had no health insurance or inadequate insurance. People who couldn't afford child care. People who were unable to send their kids to college. And Trump said, I hear your pain, and I'm going to take on the establishment, and I'm going to stand up for working people. And I saw his ads. Some of those ads are really powerful and strong ads, and I can understand why people responded to those ads and to his rallies. But what I must tell you, and it gives me no pleasure to do this, I must tell you that time after time, what Trump said that he would do for the American people turned out to be a lie, and he did, in many instances, exactly the opposite. All of you will recall that during his campaign, Trump said, I am a different type of Republican. I'm not Paul Ryan, I'm not Mitch McConnell, I'm not any of those guys. I, Donald Trump, if I get elected, I am not going to cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. He lied. All right? It's not well known. The media sometimes doesn't cover these things. But the budget, the last budget that he presented to the Congress, called for over a 10-year period $1 trillion cut to Medicaid, $500 billion cut to Medicare, and a $72 billion cut to the Social Security Disability Fund. And I want everybody in this district and in this state to understand the implications of that budget. It is not just low-income children and workers who will be impacted by a massive cut to Medicaid. If you have a mom or a dad dealing with Alzheimer's and is in a nursing home, more often than not, Medicaid pays that bill. And if you cut Medicaid by $1 trillion, Medicaid is not going to cut that bill. And if you're a working person, you're going to have to make a decision of how you take care of your mom or your dad while you're trying to save some money to send your kid to college. And when Trump talks about his love for Medicare, $500 billion cut would be devastating. And while Trump and his friends and Steve King are busy going about cutting or trying to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, they have no problem in voting for and supporting $1 trillion tax cut for the top 1%. I think it is outrageous and immoral to have a budget which cuts not only Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, education, nutrition programs for low-income pregnant women, and say we don't have enough money for those people, but we have $1 trillion for tax breaks for large, profitable corporations and the wealthiest people in America. Those are not the priorities of Vermont or Iowa or any state in this country. And I want those folks who voted for Trump to understand that when you turn on the TV, maybe if you get off of Fox for a moment, and you turn on the TV and you see Mitch McConnell, I will give McConnell a bit of credit. He's a fairly honest guy. And he says, you know, what we have got to do is work on entitlement reform. Does everybody understand what Republicans mean when they talk about entitlement reform? Those are cuts, devastating cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. In my view, when you got seniors in Iowa and Vermont and all over this country trying to survive, and I don't know how they do that, on $12,000, $13,000 a year, seniors who are cutting their pills in half because they can't afford the outrageous cost of prescription drugs. No, Mr. King, you don't cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid to give tax breaks to billionaires. Donald Trump ran for president, came to Iowa, came to Vermont, and he said, if I'm elected, I am going to provide health care to everybody. But after he was elected, he worked hard to try to repeal the Affordable and to throw 32 million Americans, including many people here in Iowa, off of the health care they currently have. Now you tell me, I want you to think about it for a moment. You are somebody dealing with cancer right now, or you're dealing with heart disease or diabetes, and they take away the health care that your life depends upon. How outrageous is that? So we say to Congressman King, you don't throw 32 million Americans off the health care that they have. What you do is move forward to guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child in this country. By the way, right now, we're dealing with another major crisis, and that is Republican attorneys general all over this country are trying to get the Supreme Court to declare the Affordable Care Act unconstitutional. And if they are successful, the provision in the ACA, which finally protects people with pre-existing conditions, will disappear. And millions of people who have serious illnesses today will either not be able to get the insurance they need or pay astronomical sums of money for that coverage. We are not going to allow that to happen, and that is why JD has got to be the next congressman. His campaign, some of you may recall, Trump talked about appropriately enough the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs in America. The fact that we pay by far the highest prices in the world. And Trump told us that he was going to take on the pharmaceutical industry. Well, that was another lie, because prescription drug prices have soared under the 2 years of Donald Trump. Trump told Iowa, told Vermont, that he was going to stand up to the establishment, stand up to Wall Street, stand up to the big money interests. Well, it turned out he wasn't telling the truth about that either. You don't stand up to the establishment by appointing more billionaires to your administration than any president in the history of this country. To Wall Street by deregulating many major banks, laying the groundwork for another Wall Street crash and a taxpayer bailout. That is not how, in my view, you stand up to the establishment. And just the other day, Trump said that in terms of climate change, he said, there are differences of opinion. We don't know if it's real. We don't know if it's man-made. He's lying again. The scientific community, 99% of the scientists who have done peer-reviewed writing on that subject, understand that climate change is real, it is caused by human activity, and it is already causing devastating problems in the United States and around the world. I don't know if any of you have seen or read or heard about the recent report that came from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And what these scientists said, summarizing thousands of research papers, is that we have all of 12 years to get our act together, to break our dependency on fossil fuel, to move to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, or if we don't do that, this planet will suffer irreparable damage, and the planet that we will be leaving our kids and grandchildren will be one that is unhealthy and in many ways uninhabitable. And on that score, I want to congratulate the people of Iowa for helping to lead this country in terms of wind energy. Thank you very much for what you're doing. This election is not just about Congressman King, and it is not about Donald Trump. It is about the kind of future that we want for ourselves and our children and future generations. One of the great economic crises that we face as a nation is that at a time of massive income and wealth inequality, where we have 3 people in America who now own more wealth than the bottom half of the American people, where the top 0.1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%. In the midst of all of that, here in Iowa and in Vermont and all over this country, we have people working at wages that are so low that they are simply unable to take care of their families. I will never forget, during my campaign, I was in Des Moines, and it was at a farmer's market on a Saturday morning, I think it was, in Des Moines. And I chatted with some guy, I went around talking, and I chatted with some guy. I said, well, where do you work? He says, I work at the food shelf, emergency food shelf. And we chatted for a while. And he told me that in Des Moines, over 90% of the people who go to the emergency food shelf, they weren't unemployed, they weren't disabled, they were working people who were simply not making enough money to provide adequately for their families. In my view, in JD's view, in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty. You should not have to go to an emergency food shelf. And that is why I believe, and all across this country, more and more Americans believe, and why cities and towns are moving in that direction. We are going to raise the minimum wage in this country to a living wage, $15 an hour. And how disgraceful is it that congresspeople like Congressman King and the President of the United States has nothing to say about raising the minimum wage when so many people in America are struggling so hard. And when we talk about fair wages, let us work hard to end the unfairness of women in America making 80 cents on the dollar compared to men equal pay for equal work. And there is one issue that I am very proud of the progress that we are making. When I was here in Iowa 3 years ago, what I said is that in this country, health care must be a right, not a privilege. That it is an international embarrassment that we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child. And while we have 30 million Americans with no health insurance, and many of you who do have insurance are underinsured with high deductibles and high co-payments, and millions of people today, even with insurance, can't go to the doctor. And thousands of people die every year because they don't get to the doctor when they should. What we are saying now is, what kind of dysfunctional system is that when with so many people uninsured and underinsured, we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, and yet we end up spending twice as much per capita on health care as any other country. And the idea of expanding Medicare so that it covers not just people 65 or older, but every man, woman, and child is an idea that is gaining momentum every single day. The last poll that I saw, maybe a month and a half ago, came out from Reuters. 70% of the American people support Medicare for all. And I want you to think about what it will mean to this country. What it will mean that you don't have to worry about whether you can afford to go to the doctor or not. What it will mean is you don't have to worry about going bankrupt if you end up in the hospital or your child ends up in the hospital. What it will mean when we substantially lower the cost of prescription drugs so that 1 out of 5 Americans is not in a situation where they cannot afford the prescription their doctors prescribe. Think of what it will mean to the stress level of this country to know that if you lose your job, you're not going to lose your insurance. That in fact you don't have to stay on your job if you don't like it just because you're getting decent insurance. A Medicare for All program will not only help the working people and the middle class of this country, it will help businesses who will be able to function on their business and not worry about having to provide health care to their workers, because everybody in America will be covered. Now you can tell that we're gaining momentum on this issue because Trump and his friends are attacking us every single day, and obviously they are lying. And one of the lies is that if we have Medicare for all, it will hurt the seniors who are currently on Medicare. And that is an outrageous lie. Because right now, as good as Medicare is, seniors in the room know that it does not cover the dental care or the dentures they may need. It does not cover hearing aids and audiology. And it doesn't cover the need for eyeglasses, which could be pretty expensive. So Mr. Trump, tell the damn truth and tell the American people that our legislation improves Medicare for seniors. It will improve health care for everybody in this country, and it will substantially lower the cost for the overwhelming majority of the American people. Now, there's another issue that we have talked about, which is also gaining a whole lot of momentum, and it started right here in Iowa. I remember a meeting we had, I think it was in Des Moines, maybe it was Drake College. And I was talking about the high cost of education. And I was using as an example a woman that I met in Burlington, Vermont, who said, you know, Bernie, I went to medical school and I graduated $300,000 in debt. Which kind of blew me away. I didn't realize that people were graduating with that kind of debt. So I came to Iowa and I made my remarks, and a woman came up to me at the end. She said, $300,000 in debt? No. I graduated dental school $400,000 in debt. And all over Iowa, and all over my state, all over America, you are seeing people, A, not able to go to college, bright young kids, or get the post-high school education they need to do a trade. They're not able to get that higher education because their families cannot afford it. And think of what that means to those young people and to our entire country. What kind of great scientists and doctors and engineers are not getting the education that they desperately need. And second of all, we have many people who do go to school and they're leaving school deeply, deeply in debt. and they're having to carry that burden of debt for years. So what we proposed during the campaign, and what is an idea that is spreading again all over this country, that at a time when most of the new good jobs that are being created today require a higher education, at a time when we are engaged in a very competitive global economy, now is the time to make public colleges and universities tuition-free and lower student debt. And when people tell me we cannot afford to do that, I would suggest that making public colleges and universities tuition-free and allowing every kid who has the ability in this country to get a higher education is somewhat more important than giving tax breaks to billionaires and large corporations. Let me say a word about women's rights, which I know in the state is a controversial issue, but let me say and tell you what I think. I respect other people's point of view, and I know that on the issue of a woman's right to choose, this is a controversial issue. But this is what I do not accept. I have many conservative colleagues who run for office by saying, I'm a conservative and I want to get government off the backs of the people. I want to deregulate. And if a company wants to abuse its workers, hey, that's their business. And if a corporation wants to pollute a river or pollute the air, that's their business. We're not going to over-regulate. We're going to get government away from the needs of the people. Except when it comes to a woman's right to control her own body. The conservative position on that issue is get the government out of a woman's body, let her make that decision, not the federal state. Brothers and sisters, we have an enormously important election coming in 2 weeks. And I know it is a hackneyed statement to make because it's been said so often, but this election is in fact the most important midterm election in my lifetime. And the issue is whether or not we are going to end one-party rule in Washington, a party that is working overtime for the wealthy and the powerful and turning their backs on the needs of working families. And above and beyond that issue, there is another issue that we have to deal with, and that is especially relevant in this district, given who your congressperson is. And that is, as a nation, are we comfortable with members of Congress who get elected or try to get elected by dividing us up by the color of our skin or where we were born or our religion or our sexual orientation or our gender? Are we comfortable with a president who makes fun of women who have suffered sexual assault? This country, as all of you know, we all know American history, and we know that back at the inception, before we were a country, when the settlers first came here, we know what was done for the Native American people, the terrible, terrible things. We all know about the abomination of slavery and segregation and the terrible things that were done to the African American community. We know that 100 years ago, women in America did not have the right to vote. And if they were divorced, they couldn't get control of their possessions. They were second-class citizens. And we know about the shame and discrimination imposed on people in the gay and lesbian community. We know all of these things. But we also know that throughout our history, going back hundreds of years, brave people, often facing terrible odds, they stood up and they said, discrimination is wrong. And people stood up for civil rights, the abolitionists and before them, saying that racism is not what this country must be about. That we cannot continue to treat women as objects and as second-class citizens. That religious bigotry, whether it's against Asians, or Italians, or Irish, or Catholics, or Jews, whoever, that is wrong. That all of us share a common humanity with common needs and common goals. That we all want our kids to live happy and prosperous lives. That we have so much more in common than those superficial things that separate us. And now we have a president and we have members of Congress who are trying to win votes by dividing us up. And I say to Trump and anybody else in this country who thinks that way, that we have struggled too long and for too many years to fight discrimination. We are not going back, we are going forward to a non-discriminatory. This election is about a whole lot of things, but it really is, in the deepest sense, about what our values are and the kind of country we're going to leave to our children and our grandchildren. And I want to simply repeat that it is absolutely imperative that we end one-party rule in Washington now. And your votes for J.D. Scholten could well make the difference as to whether that happens or not. Let's work hard in the next 2 weeks. Let's elect J.D. for the Congress. Thank you all very much.